Hi everybody, Tim Hughes here. I'm the CEO and co-founder of DLA Ignite. Today I've got Liz Weber with me, and we're going to talk about strategy, and we're going to talk about creating strategies for our business. Before we get into that, Liz, where can people get hold of you?
Well, thank you, Tim. Sure. My website is W as in William, B as in Bravo, S as in Sierra, LLC.com, or on LinkedIn. I'm quite active on LinkedIn. And my LinkedIn handle is Liz Weber, CMC on LinkedIn.
And you are pretty active, because that's where I met you, was on LinkedIn and on social. So Liz, thanks for joining us today. Strategy. Well, it's a massive subject. How do we get our teeth into something like that? How can we get into something like that?
Well, it's an interesting question, and obviously you kept it at the extremely high level, because right now strategy means so many different things to so many different people, Tim. But the clients that I work with, which are either government agencies, they're professional trade associations, financial services firms like banks, credit unions, insurance companies, investment firms, or manufacturers. Strategy really is simply, in the most basic sense, what do we need to do to survive over the next 3, 5, 10 or more years? And what's most important right now? That's a very simple answer. But as we all know, 2020 kicked a lot of us to our knees, and 2021, for some, are lifting us up, and for some still have our knees on the ground a little bit. And so with strategy right now, it's looking at that magic glass a little bit and saying, what do we really want to be doing over the next 2, 3, 4 years that we're going to be able to make money at, that people are going to value enough to pay with limited resources, or that they're going to find it important enough to make us a priority? What is that? And so for a lot of organizations, their focus on strategy has shifted. What they thought they were going to do as an organization, the products they thought they were going to produce, or the services they thought they were going to offer, shifted because their client base shifted. Yep. And so many organizations got much more refined in really focusing a much narrower service base as well as product line, and others actually opened the funnel. And his strategy is really getting very, very, very clear on who do we want to serve, who do we want to market to, and then what are the core products or services that they're going to buy from us, and getting really, really smart about that.
And I think it's what you said, that what is it that people are going to, it's not just pay for, they're going to create it's going to be a priority for them, isn't it?
Exactly. Because, and that's the key thing, because with so many organizations that either have limited dollars or are so incredibly busy right now, people don't have a lot of time or money to piddle around. They're very focused on, here's what I need now, or here's what I can afford now, and that's it. So as suppliers, it's forced us to get much clearer on what are the real priorities of our client base.
And also in terms of strategy, it's also about creating a mission for the company as well, isn't it?
It's refining the mission for the company. It's refining, Simon Sinek says it's the why. It's, why do you get up every morning? Why do you come to work? Why do you get excited about what you do? And actually, with a lot of the clients that I'm working with right now, and we're working on strategic planning, it's really looking at, how do we need to either expand the mission and our scope of services, or how do we need to contract it and get more narrow, as I was just saying, given our focus on who we want to serve going forward. And for some of my clients, honestly, that scope of services has expanded because they're seeing additional opportunities. Whereas for, honestly, the majority of my clients, it's contracted. It's gotten much more focused and much more targeted and intentional, and they're really working on enhancing service delivery to rise to the top of their niche market.
And so one of the things that we talked about when we were doing the prep for this was talking about the fundamental products that the businesses were talking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and again, it's the fundamentals of really identifying what are our clients buying. And And that depends upon obviously the market that you're in. I've had a lot of clients, and we're talking strategy over the past several months, and strategies that they were looking at putting in play 2 years from now and 3 years from now obviously jump to the forefront because priorities have shifted for their customers. And part of the other aspect of this also, it's not just what are the products or services that we're offering to our external customers, Tim, but it's also what are we offering to our employees? Because right now the labor market is so tight. It's what are the services and the products possibly even that we're offering to our employees to recruit, but then also to retain and develop really great talent. Because as you and I were talking before we even started today, it's become such a dynamic work environment that individuals who we thought were going to stay with our company for the next 5, 10, or 15 years have decided, you know what, I'm done, I'm tired, I'm out. And they're leaving early, they might be retiring early, or they're going someplace else that is a better work environment for them because they may have better long-term flexibility plans to allow continued remote work or to allow a more balanced work environment, supportive structures for employees. So there's a number of things that are changing as far as the products, whether it's being provided to an external client, customer, or to internal employees, excuse me.
And I think there's going to be a shift, isn't there, in the next 12, 18 months where people are going to move around. Because if you're saying, for some people, you must go back to the office, some people will make a choice and say, I'm not going back.
Right.
Whereas I know my partner's 26-year-old, he can't wait to go back to the office because he loves the social side of it. He doesn't like, because in his flat, he sits by himself. He doesn't want that. So there's going to be a shuffling around and moving around as people understand where they want to work and the dynamics of that.
Right. Absolutely. And I can tell you also what's driving that is because of the commonality now of a remote work environment or a blended work environment. What is going to be a real major strategic shift for a lot of organizations is exactly what we're talking about, but it's a sourcing of employees. It's no longer as restricted as it has been geographically, where you source your employees from, and where employees live. So now it's a matter of, where can you find the right talent, and then how do you provide that type of environment, whether they want in-person social connections or they want the flexibility to work from wherever they choose to work, but still stay connected. And then as such, like you said, with, your partner is looking for the social connectivity of a work environment. For many, many employees, that is crucial. And so one of the strategies that a lot of my clients are really focusing on as a priority, it's not just what products and services are we going to deliver to our external customers. It's what is the culture that we are going to either create, refine, or amplify that is going to be attractive to help us recruit and retain the right kind of employees here. Because with employees being able to work remote and have that flexibility, where are they going to get a sense of community? Where are they going to sense of connectedness? And if we as employers can provide that community, can provide that connectedness, we have a competitive advantage over so many others that are just looking at, the cogs on the wheel of helping the business survive. So that whole cultural dynamic and really focusing on that is a strategic priority for many, many organizations, or it should be.
And I agree with you. This thing about the culture and about, at the moment, I think that the organizations that say you're all going to go back in the office, it's a rigid culture. And I think that, we've had 12 months for the leadership to sort out how they manage people remotely. And offer people the flexibility, because there will be people that will say, I'm not going back into the office.
Right.
Right. And there are people that are saying, I want to go back to the office. And we've got to be able to, as you say, we've got to be able to provide the culture and not just say you can go back in the office, but it's 2 days a week, which is, that's exactly what we had before, wasn't it?
Right. Right.
So I agree with you. It's critical that that there has to be an attraction point to the business.
Yeah. Well, and the challenge, Tim, to be fair to employers that have been struggling with, and I'll be honest, a lot of my clients have been talking about this for the past 16, 17 months, because as things kept evolving, it's hard to make a decision of how and when to bring people back when you don't know when you can bring people back. But as you just pointed to, now for various reasons, whether it's health reasons or just philosophical reasons, some don't want to go back and some do want to go back and some want a combination thereof. So the challenge for employers is logistically, number one, how do you do that? From an equity perspective, how do you do that? But then also from a cultural perspective, how do you do that? How do you again either reignite or refine a workplace culture when you're not going to have the same ability for people to have these casual collisions in the workplace when they're not all there? And if you have a situation where you're saying, okay, everybody has to work in the office 2 days a week, if you put people on a set protocol of 2 days a week, well, then only certain people are going to have an opportunity to have those connections. So how do you refine this culture? How do you create this environment that is attractive for those who are allowed to come back on certain days and those who are, requested they don't come back on certain days? So there's a lot of struggles on strategy coming ahead. And I think, one of the best techniques to work through is just to continue to have conversations and keep your ears open to what the ideas, suggestions, and challenges of the employee population are. Because that's one of the things that's happening with a lot of my clients right now is, without learning too many details, you're hearing a lot about the challenges that many employees are having because some can't come back to work because of health situations that would make it rather dangerous for them to potentially come back. And then you've got others who, have philosophical differences. And so there's a lot for employers to consider that they may not have had to focus on so heavily in the past.
And I think, if just to switch gears slightly as well, there's something else that's has fundamentally changed businesses' strategy, which is the understanding around DEIA, and the fact that there's been this whole switch over the last 18 months. I think it was brewing before it, but it's become really focused that we have to understand societal issues and actually face those and actually support them. We need to be supporting diversity. We need to be supporting sustainability. We need to be, all of these things. I mean, what do you think on this?
No, I agree. And it goes back to clarifying culture, because again, when employees are looking for connectedness, more and more, they are looking to connect with organizations that fundamentally align with their individual values. And so it is becoming more expected of organizations now to take a stand on societal issues, to take a stand on diversity and actually do something about it. Don't just have a policy about it.
Yes.
And the ability to just simply say something but then not walk the talk is not as accepted as in the past. And so that also is becoming a huge issue that for many organizations for years, you tried to stay neutral and you didn't want to express your political opinions or your societal opinions for fear of bad press. Well, now it's 180-degree opposite. It's you're getting backlash if you don't take a stand.
Yeah. Because I remember, going back a couple of years, you wouldn't take a stand because you wouldn't want to offend that customer.
Right.
And now it's a case of, well, I don't want that customer.
Right. Yeah.
But because actually what we're looking for are, and we always actually wanted this, but we're now actually able to say it, is we want customers, yes, but we also want customers that reflect our values.
Right.
And we want employees that reflect our values.
Yeah. So in a way, it's a dichotomy, because we're trying to be more inclusive, but yet when we state our values, we're being exclusive.
Yes.
And so it's strategy.
I probably need to say, because I used the letters DEIA, and that's diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility.
Yeah.
And I think now, certainly, if I'm, my partner and I were with her youngest, which is 26, and we had an evening with him. I mean, I love spending time with him because of the fact that I get this window into this world, which is of what a 26-year-old and younger is thinking, and it can be very different from the world that when I grew up in when I was 26. And if you're looking to recruit people like him, who are, they're young, they're dynamic, he's energetic, he's loyal, he's he's ambitious, all of those things, but you also need to be reflecting his values. And those values are, there's a whole bunch of society issues that are going on, and we need to be supporting those as well. And I agree that we have to take a stand. Yeah.
Well, and it's a stand that you can take for morality, for your values, whatever. But also, Tim, let's be honest, it's a monetary stand. Because when you have individuals who are very firm in their convictions and values, their money follows their values. So they will buy from organizations that support their values. They will associate with organizations or go to restaurants or buy products that mirror their values, and they will not support those that don't. So again, it goes to a situation of, you can have a philosophical belief in this, but it's also no different than, years ago when the automobile industry really started paying attention to women, because it's like, we've got to figure out that when women say, no, I don't want that vehicle, I want this vehicle, because when we put the kids in, I can't get the groceries in and get the kid in, this, let's start thinking about not what only is what's fair and equitable, but what makes financial sense of where are those dollars going to go. And that's a strategic move as well.
Yeah, I know a friend of mine who sold his business, and he and his wife had decided, when we sell the business, we're going to go and get his and her matching Aston Martins. Well, they actually were going to get a car. So they went to Porsche, and they went to Jaguar, and they went to Aston Martin. It was the salesman at Aston Martin. They realized that the male wasn't interested in the car. It was actually the female that was interested in the car. And when they said, well, we'll take one, we'll buy one. And they said, well, actually, we're going to buy two in different colors. And that. So they dropped what? $500,000 on two cars, and it was the fact that the salesperson had picked up, it was the female that was making the decision.
Yeah. And it's a matter of, again, it kind of loops back to what we started with, is paying attention to what does the customer value, what will the customer pay for, who is the customer, and what in our portfolio of products or services do we want to offer them that's going to meet their need when they have that need that they'll pay for. That's a basic strategy. It's really paying attention to who do we want to serve and how can we best serve them.
And thinking about both internal and external customers, because our employees are the internal ones, aren't they, really, in terms of
Yeah. And the more that we understand our employees, our internal customers, what drives them, that's giving us a window into the world in that vast external market that mirrors them. That, again, we have just a huge opportunity to pursue. And it's a matter of aligning and listening and going from there.
So is there, in the last sort of 2 minutes, is there any pieces of advice that you would give small businesses or right now about what they should be doing?
It goes back to, if you haven't picked up the phone or gotten on a Zoom or whatever and talked to just a handful of some of your most loyal customers over the past couple years, do it, and do it sooner rather than later, to find out what's going on in their world, and just have a conversation. Don't sell, just have a conversation and find out what their challenges are, find out what their issues are, find out what their current successes are, find out what their current worries are, and then identify within your portfolio of products and services, what do you have that they're going to need 12 months from now or 18 months from now? And how do you start setting that up so that you can bring them to that point when they need it?
Right.
And it's a matter of just having a conversation and listening, and do not sell.
Do not sell, I think, is the important thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a listening. You're there they're talking, you're listening.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I can tell you, Tim, over the past 16, 17 months, that's what I did for the first probably 11 months of last year, is I just kept reaching out saying, here's a piece of information that you might be able to use right now. Here's what I'm learning from some of my other clients that they're doing right now. And I just dropped information that I thought would be helpful. And I can't tell you the dividends that has paid for my business over the past year, of people coming back and saying, we need you now to do this for us. We need you now to do that for us. Because I was just paying attention to what their needs were and what they were going to be.
And if you've got another customer that's got those issues and you're able to solve it, it's quite easy to say, I've got other customers that have this problem.
Yeah.
This is how you can solve it. I just thought you'd like to know.
Yeah. And like me, that's probably what you hear from your customers a lot, is what are other people doing? What are other companies doing? Because I just don't want to get stuck, with a myopic viewpoint, is, what can they learn from somebody else's mistakes or from somebody else's successes to shorten their learning curve.
Yeah. Liz, thank you so much. It's been fascinating. Strategy always is something that I'm always amazed about, because so many people just don't do it.
Yeah.
I remember my first sales course that I went on was, I actually didn't know what strategy was. And actually on the first sales course, it was when the person said, at the end, said, what's the one thing that you've learned from this sales course? And I said, actually, the difference between the strategy and the tactic.
There you go.
And I've gone on and used that so many times in my career, and it is so important.
Yeah.
Remind people where they can get hold of you.
Sure. First on LinkedIn, Liz Weber CMC, but also at my website, wbsllc.com.
Okay, Liz, thank you so much for today and for the insight that you've shared. And thank you so much.
Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Liz.
Bye-bye.
Press this button. There we go.